answers? I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Mama always said I'd be the chosen one.
Because you, and I mean specifically you, the press, specifically you, the press corps, because you cheer against Trump so hard, it's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump, because you want him not to be successful so bad, you have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful.
That's Secretary of Defense Hegseth today, alongside Joint Chiefs of Staff General Kane, talking about our attacks on the nuclear facilities. Against a backdrop, as Pete Hegseth said, because of you guys here in this press room, CNN and Fox News as well, and all the others, you have been looking for ways to say our attacks on the plants were not successful, if they were even needed. I told you the day it happened, there would be those Americans in birth. By birth, they are Americans, but they are looking for a way to hope this failed and find a way to point out that it was a total waste of time and money. We never should have done it. They'll argue all and on, and they'll argue over War Powers Act. They'll argue about constitutional issue. The bottom line is they wanted it to fail. I can't drive that point home hard enough. Those born in this country, Americans, in our midst, that they wanted our military to fail. And we didn't lose a single troop. And you're going to hear later how close we could have come to losing some. But that would have made them just happy as they could be. Larry, you're really stepping over the line on that. No, I'm not. I am not. Because I know the vile, disgusting vermin that are in our midst to pose as patriots. You don't wish for our military to fail in any operation. They wanted it to fail because it's Donald Trump. If Obama had been in the White House and carried out the same event, they would have been cheering. They would have been doing it with Biden. I would be cheering it because I want success to get the nuclear weapons out of Iran and make it clear they cannot produce them anytime soon. We should all want that. But they want to put politics ahead of national security. Well, we know they've been doing that ever since the Biden open border policy. We don't care. Come on in. We're going to hear in more detail later from a Border Patrol chief testifying before Congress just how much the Biden administration allowed our nation to be invaded. But again, this issue where they want to point out that, well, this probably didn't work. The White House was immediately saying this was a great success. We're not so sure it was a great success. It wasn't really obliterated. It wasn't decimated. It wasn't destroyed. Quote, redundant, totally destroyed. They didn't want to use any of those terms. And yet it was. I'll give you details as we move forward. Thank you for joining us. Hour number one, Larry Connors, USA. And yes, I'm fired up again. I get fired up for every program for you. And not just for you, but because I've got this inner spirit in here that says, get it out and make sure the people hear it. And that's why if you are a constant listener of Larry Connors, USA, I thank you. If you're not, let others know. Get them to put the app on their phone. I don't care where they are in the country, in the world. With the NewsTalkSTL app, they can listen to this program. And if they miss it, they can pull up the podcast. Let me lay it all out for you. But let me remind you, with Larry Connors USA, You are going to get news, analysis, opinion, and education. In every program we do, when we're on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch the program. Go to NewsTalkSTL, Rumble, Facebook, Twitter. Larry Connors USA, Rumble, or Facebook. And everything goes up as a podcast later. At NewsTalkSTL, LarryConnorsUSA.com, where you can also push subscribe. We'll automatically send it to your email every day. And we don't share your information. And all the podcasts also available at Larry Connors USA Facebook. We'll let you know in our second hour. I'll give you more details of what that border chief was complaining about, the former border agent control, as to how it just opened up, and not just our country being invaded, but the children. My God, it's heartbreaking. This story involving the children. That's coming in our second hour. I will tell you now, you might need to brace for it. And I don't know if you have children listening with you right now. You might not want them to be listening at that point. That's the next hour. Later in this hour, John LaBute, a never-Trumper, former New York congressman, doesn't like a lot of things that Trump does, thinks he does them wrong. We'll get his take on the Iran, but more importantly, John went ballistic the other day when the word came out that a Muslim radical was elected to be the next mayor of New York City. Now, he's not officially in yet. This was the primary, but he beat out Andrew Cuomo. Cuomo's going to run now on a different party. Eric Adams, the existing mayor, is having to run as an independent. Generally, if you win the Democratic primary, you end up being the mayor. It's all in the writing on the wall. But back to Defense Secretary Hegseth, and I'm glad he came out and threw it right in the face of the media about how they've been responsible for everything. And he also pointed out, you guys talk, and you really don't know anything.
How many stories have been written about how hard it is to, fly a plane for 36 hours? Has MSNBC done that story? Has Fox? Have we done the story how hard that is? Have we done it 2 or 3 times so that American people understand? How about how difficult it is to shoot a drone from an F-15 or 16 or F-22 or F-35? Or what it's like to man a Patriot battery? Or how hard it is to refuel midair? Giving the American people an understanding of how complex and sophisticated this mission really was. There are so many aspects of what our brave men and women did that, because of the hatred of this press corps, are undermined because people are trying to leak and spin that it wasn't successful. It's irresponsible.
It is irresponsible, and there is an investigation into material that apparently got leaked out about this bombing. Now, what was leaked was preliminary information on how effective we were with the Fordow nuclear facility. That was not supposed to be leaked to the public at that point. It was preliminary, but it was planting the seed that it wasn't that successful. Well, that was a, quote, preliminary report. More was coming. I'm glad they leaked the preliminary. And if they're thinking about leaking the full facts, hell, today, Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman General Kane released more details than I've ever heard from any Department of Defense operation. Wait till you hear some of these coming up later as to how extensive our success was and how it got carried out and for how long we've been working on this. But the leftist legacy media and the so-called Americans that wanted to see this fail, you know who they would really rather listen to and accept his word? The Ayatollah Khomeini.
The U.S. president said that Iran should surrender. That means there's no more enrichment. It's the question of Iran to be surrendered. To mention the word Iran is too much for the mouth of the U.S. president to even pronounce it, to say it. A great Iran and the word of surrender, they don't match. They don't match with each other. It's a joke. It's a ridiculous thing to say. I would like to congratulate the great nation of Iran I want to congratulate them for a few reasons. First, I would like to congratulate them for victory over the fake regime of the Zionist regime.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. Congratulations for Iran and the Iran regime. So for the legacy media, that's your soundbite. That's what you want. And there is no victory over the Zionist regime. And the Ayatollah is lying to his people, as usual, and lying to the legacy media and the leftists, and they buy it. They suck it up like a dog hungry for water. They don't bother checking the facts. In fact, they don't want to know the facts. Never let the facts interfere with a good story. Well, the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan King, as I said, gave a detailed account of what really happened at Fordo, beginning with what we knew and when we knew the Iranians were obviously planning something.
For more than 15 years, this officer and his teammate lived and breathed this single target, Fordo, a critical element of Iran's covert nuclear weapons program. He studied the geology. He watched the Iranians dig it out. He watched the construction, the weather, the discard material, the geology, the construction materials, where the materials came from. He looked at the vent shaft, the exhaust shaft, the electrical systems, the environmental control systems, every nook, every crater, every piece of equipment going in and every piece of equipment going out. They literally dreamed about this target at night when they slept. They thought about it driving back and forth to work, and they knew from the very first days what this was for. You do not build a multi-layered underground bunker complex with centrifuges and other equipment in a mountain for any peaceful purpose.
Of course you don't. And they were getting the spy imagery of what was going in and what was coming out, and trying by spy imagery to imagine and determine what was coming out, what was going in. For 15 years they were working on it, mainly two guys. They could share information with each other. They couldn't tell anything, obviously, to their family or anyone else. But they did realize if this plan is underway underground, as General King said, we need a weapon.
And along the way, they realized we did not have a weapon that could adequately strike and kill this target. So they began a journey to work with industry and other tacticians to develop the GBU-57. They tested it over and over again, tried different options, tried more after that. They accomplished hundreds of test shots and dropped many full-scale weapons against extremely realistic targets for a single purpose: kill this target at the time and place of our nation's choosing. And then, on a day in June of 2025, more than 15 years after they started their life's work, the phone rang and the President of the United States ordered the B-2 force that you've supported to go strike and kill this target.
Good. They finally had reached a conclusion, and they got the order they wanted. They had the development of the weapon they needed. Now, do we use it? And Trump made that decision. 7 B-2 bombers flying out of Whiteman Air Force Base, 7,000 miles one way to Iran, get over the targets, drop your weapons, and then return. Another 7,000 miles back, 30-plus hours in cockpit for travel and over target. It's also pointed out men and women were manning those bombers. These women were not there because of DEI. They were there because they'd earned their right. One colonel was involved, and then you had others of major general type, major and lower ranks, but they were all involved, and they were active. General King did point out that Iran itself began to realize, before we came in, of course, maybe we need to have a concern about the air shafts we needed. Look what they tried to do.
The cap was forcibly removed by the first weapon, and the main shaft was uncovered. Weapons 2, 3, 4, 5 were tasked to enter the main shaft, move down into the complex at greater than 1,000 feet per second, and explode in the mission space. Weapon number 6 was designed on each side, so there were 6 on each side. Weapons number 6 was designed as a flex weapon to allow us to cover if one of the preceding jets or one of the preceding weapons did not work.
But it did. Iran had built this large concrete cover over it, but as he said, the first missile took those covers off. He did not detail how big the concrete was, how massive it was. He said, but we knew what it was, and we went right through it, took it off. If you've seen the video that is out there, it's pretty fascinating to watch it hit, and then the explosions come out of the mountain and the shafts, the entries. Secretary of Defense Hegseth wrapping up his berating at the press.
Time and time again, classified information is leaked or peddled for political purposes to try to make the president look bad. And what's really happening is you're undermining the success of incredible B-2 pilots and incredible F-35 pilots and incredible refuelers and incredible air defenders who accomplished their mission, set back a nuclear program in ways that other presidents would have dreamed. How about we celebrate that?
Yeah. Yes.
How about we talk about how special America is? That
Yes.
only we have these capabilities.
Yes.
I think it's too much to ask, unfortunately, for the fake news. So we're used to that. But we also have an opportunity to stand at the podium and read the truth of what's really happening. And the reality is you want to call it destroyed, you want to call it defeated, you want to call it obliterated. Choose your word. This was an historically successful attack, and we should celebrate it as Americans. And it gives us a chance to have peace, chance to have a deal, and an opportunity to prevent a nuclear Iran, which is something President Trump talked about for 20 years.
And not just for the protection of the Middle East, but the world. And you know, even after that dressing down by Pete Hegseth, CNN runs out and they had on their page for a period of time today, well, he gave new intel information, but they didn't back up Trump's claim that the program was, quote, obliterated. You can't win with these guys. General Kane shared some stories of some of the soldiers on the ground as they were taking incoming fire after we hit Iran. You want to hear that coming up later. But first, John LeBoot, lock and load, ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
In all these years that Wellington Environmental has been my sponsor, I've never mentioned their duct cleaning services. Allergy season is here, and Wellington crews clean air ducts daily in homes and commercial buildings, also cleaning air handling units and diffusers in commercial facilities. Why? Well, because people will see black dirt and mold on the vents, or they are actually suffering from allergies. Don't be fooled by low-cost duct cleaning providers saying they charge only per vent, because once they get on site, the price will skyrocket. Wellington does not do this, never has. Wellington will give you an estimate, and you say Larry Connors, and immediately you get a 20% discount. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 314-644-4930. Make your home and business better, safer with Wellington. Be well with Wellington. John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. The Oak Street Inn and Lounge has some great news. The Speakeasy will now be open on Sundays, starting at 2. Open to the public. Great for those in the industry who'll want to enjoy a Sunday fun day. Plus, enjoy sushi and cocktails. What more could you want? You want to make sure you get the code And how do you get the code to the speakeasy? You go to the Facebook, Oak Street Inn and Lounge Facebook. I'll see you at Oak Street Inn and Lounge in Cottleville.
This is News Talk STL.
Baby, I got your number. Oh, and I know that you got mine. You know that I called you. I called too many times. You can call me, baby. You can call me anytime. You got to call me.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Welcome back. My guest is Reaganite Congressman for New York, John LeBoutier. Also wrote the book, Harvard Hates America. Decades before we certainly realized he was right. I often refer to him as a never Trumper, but I might have to start backing off that phrase. First of all, John, welcome aboard.
Hey, Larry. Great to talk to you again in this epic week that we've just going through.
Yeah, and I want to go through that, your thoughts on the attack as well in a moment. But first of all, folks, I want you to know that the day after word came down that New York City primary election had gone to a radical Muslim, I got this text from John. I can't read it in its entirety. Muslim anti-Israeli mayor of New York City, who would have ever believed it? I take it you were bouncing off the wall at that point.
Well, I watched this thing for months build up, and this guy's surging and beat Cuomo. I did not think he would beat him outright. I thought he'd come in second place, and then they have this ranked choice voting thing here.
Right.
And he ended up crushing Cuomo, and it tells us a lot about Democratic primary voters in New York City. It's not America as a whole; it's a slice of America, but to me, it's a big issue, and it's the same thing that got Trump elected, and why Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez get huge crowds all over the country. There's in America tremendous economic insecurity. And everybody's been looking for years, who can fix it for me? They tried Obama. They then lurched over to Trump. Then they left Trump, went to Biden, and they left him and went over to Trump. Now, here in New York, they're trying this 33-year-old Muslim guy because he's new. And he's talking about free stuff, and everybody loves free stuff.
There you go. There you go. A grab bag of free things. And that gets you votes.
Free things. Yeah, it gets you votes. But someone, it has to be an adult in a race who says, I'd love to have free buses, free groceries, free everything, but somebody's got to pay for it. And then someone else would yell out, let the billionaires, let Bezos pay for it. And, that's not going to work, because even if you tax the uber rich in America, if you tax them heavily, it wouldn't fix our economic problems. It just wouldn't do it. So,
well, my concern, obviously the economic issue is there. My concern, there are 12 to 13% Jewish population in New York City, the last numbers I've seen. My concern is this is a radical Muslim who preaches radical Muslim activities, calls out Zionists and so forth, and that's the kind of growth that's been building, as you well know, across our campuses, anti-Semitic hate. I'm not talking about, dislike. I'm talking about hate and looking to destroy them. And you put this guy in as New York City mayor, and he will go through every department, defund police, take away cash bails again. I mean, he will just open up the doors, and we will be under attack inside America once again.
So since Tuesday night, since he won, obviously there's an uproar in New York and in the business community. We can't let this guy win. We have to beat him in November. And how to beat him. And the problem is, if there were a regular Republican businessman running, that guy could win.
Well, you had Curtis Sliwa on the Republican ticket. He'd been known
Curtis
for 20 years ago.
Not a regular.
Yeah, no, he's not. 20 years ago, he was big, but his relevance, I think, is lost at this point.
That's it. So he is going to get the base Republican vote, but he's probably not going to win.
You have Eric Adams still in, and Cuomo may run. He is running as a third party, fight and deliver.
Right. So Bill Ackman, a billionaire guy, hedge fund manager here in New York, put the word out today. I will fund the campaign of anybody who can beat Mamdani. And Bill Ackman is Jewish. He also gives a lot of money to Harvard and stopped giving money to Harvard after all the stuff up there after October 7th. I should send Bill Ackman a copy of Harvard Hates America, by the way. But I don't know the guy. But anyway, but my point is the New York Post, which is Rupert Murdoch, today, their lead editorial basically endorsed Eric Adams to defeat Mamdani in November, that they're urging Cuomo to drop out totally, get off the ballot, and that everybody's got to rally behind Eric Adams, of all people, who's been indicted, and then the indictment's been dropped, and he's ruined himself as mayor, but maybe he can have a new life if people hold their nose and vote for him just to stop Mamdani.
Now you said
I don't know.
You said the New York Post. That was from New York Post, right?
Yeah.
Didn't the New York Times also really try to encourage people do not vote for Mamdani?
I'm not sure, but they might have.
Okay.
They might have.
But here's a guy that wants to, going to supposedly put rent caps on and roll them back. And as you said, free transportation. The government taking over grocery stores, that's going to work great until suddenly there's no more food on the shelves. I mean, and he's appealing
free buses.
Yeah, and he's appealing to he's appealing to young people and supposedly college-educated people. But I don't know if it's
by the way, they're the stupidest people of all.
You're right. You're right. I agree.
That's why Harvard hated America.
Yeah,
because the best educated people are the stupidest people. This guy, Mamdani, has backed off defunding the police. So he said that he's not for that. He has said in the past he wanted to arrest Prime Minister Netanyahu.
Yes.
And I think you're right to raise the Jewish community in New York. In the end, I cannot imagine them in any substantial numbers supporting this guy. I just don't see it.
Well, are New York Jews, and this is not meant as a slur, it's not meant as anything other than a question, are most of them Democrats?
Yes.
Why?
Yes, most of them are Democrats and vote Democrat.
Why?
Well, it's just the way it is. And for Republican, like I had a district that was almost a third Jewish, and I got a way higher number than most Republicans do. I got a third of the Jewish vote. And if you can get that, that's really good.
Wow.
As a Republican. And they're usually the men. The women tend to be socially liberal, pro-choice and all that stuff. And they're just not available for Republican voters.
So
but this is different. This is October 7th. This is the survival of Israel.
Right.
The idea of New York City, the sort of capital of Jews in America, voting for a Muslim who's anti-Israel, I just can't imagine it.
I don't understand it either. Well, I want to allow you last couple minutes your assessment of the bombing of the Fordow and other plants inside Iran. Secretary Hegseth really took the media to task today, saying, you guys just want to completely deny any great things our country did to make the world safer.
Yeah, well, number one, it needed to be done.
Thank you, John.
The Iranians are a bad actor and have been since February 79. And unfortunately, you and I might be the only people on your show who remember the Ayatollah coming back from Paris, sweeping down the road with 10 million people out there cheering this guy. And then 6 months later, they take the hostages and take our embassy, and off we go. And they have been nothing but a malicious force in the world since then, especially in the Middle East. And they were developing a nuclear bomb. I'm sure they're very close to it. And that's why this needed to happen. I'm not convinced that it's over. I think they're evil. I think they're evil. And I think they probably have other underground facilities that we don't know about. And be prepared, we might have to go back and bomb them.
Yeah, and Trump had said if they continue, we will do it again. His question, would you do it? And he said, sure. Very quickly in the last minute or less, sir. There are those who were born that are Americans. Oh, we didn't lose him, did we? Oh, rats. John, you still there? Oh, we lost him. Rats. I didn't get a chance to get more from him on that. We won't have enough time to link up with him before we get back. But John, very quickly, because we have 30 seconds. Yeah. Your thoughts about so-called Americans that really wanted us to fail, and they want to say we didn't do anything effective.
Well, I think they hate America.
There you go.
I mean, come on. We're all behind this thing all the way. Doesn't matter who the commander-in-chief is. This thing needed to be done.
Amen. Hey, John, I think our audience is going to really love this conversation. I did.
Good, Larry. I'll talk to you again soon.
Yes, sir. John Laboutiere, thank you very much. Always an engaging conversation with John Laboutiere. Coming up, one of the horror stories with immigrants invading our land, the children.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
I've got a phone number for you and a website where you can take a free, quick survey to learn how to use artificial intelligence, AI, to put your company on a fast track to the future. Here's the number. It's a 636 area code, 636-689-0545. 689-0545. This is PRI Global. And recently, the St. Louis Business Journal named PRI Global as a leading IT consulting company. 25 years working with hundreds of companies, several Fortune 500, locally and around the world. PRI Global has its own AI lab to develop what's best for your company. Take the free survey and be on your way to the future. 636-689-0545, 689-0545, or go direct priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. You want the best place to watch baseball or any sport and be able to enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys? Lit Cigar Lounge. Lit has so many events each month. You need to constantly check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook. You don't want to miss anything. Plus, you can order food from Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta, delivered within minutes right to your table. By the way, we're in the season for great patio dining. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta has your table waiting. Since 1995, Renewal by Andersen has helped St. Louis homeowners upgrade with windows and doors. Now it's our 30th anniversary sale. You'll get $1,995 off every project. No gimmicks, real savings, and the nation's best warranty. The offer ends June 30th, so you don't want to wait. There are some restrictions. Visit rbastl.com. Renewal by Andersen. Superior products, exceptional service. Hey, if you're 50 or older, you do not want to take any risk with your money. In fact, you want Leslie Consulting. My friend Bob Leslie can show you a gain and retain plan. It means that you never lose. Plus, you get up to a 20% bonus on day one. Leslie Consulting, a leader in brokerage and risk management. 314-721-0066. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is NewsTalk STL.
Drinking dark whiskey, telling white lies. One leads to another on Saturday night. And don't you cross your heart unless you hope to die. dog whiskey, telling my lies.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
After serving in the United States Border Patrol for 24 years, spending a year researching and writing a best-selling book entitled Invaded, The Intentional Destruction of the American Immigration System, and filming 2 documentaries, I state with complete certainty that Biden, Harris, and Mayorkas intentionally, strategically, and purposely weaponized illegal immigration and used it as a tool to fundamentally transform America. Inside this invasion, the unspoken evil of child trafficking, and more specifically, child sex trafficking, has flourished. At the end of this current administration, the number of children trafficked will have grown to over 550,000 unaccompanied alien children known as UACs. This horrific number of children will have been arrested, released into America, and then lost. To put this into context, during President Trump's last year in office, Customs and Border Protection arrested 30,557 UACs who were accounted for and not lost. Conversely, in the first year of Biden's presidency, CBP arrested 147,975 UACs, most of which are unaccompanied for and lost.
That is a former border chief, deputy patrol agent, I should say, from the San Diego sector, J.J. Carrell, testifying in front of Congress and talking about how the Biden administration became the largest child sex trafficking organization in modern history. I hear some of you out there, you think, oh, that's putting too much at Biden's feet. No, it is not. It is not. We were told repeatedly, we knew repeatedly, the drug cartels were smuggling kids in. They were smuggling young men and women in for sex trafficking. That's why I asked many times, I do not even understand how Biden can close his eyes at night and go to sleep without the flashes of children being raped, sodomized, tortured, killed appearing in front of my eyes, even though they're closed. And for every child that came in, they have a family somewhere. Maybe, we've discussed this before, some families in some of these countries, particularly Mexico, South America, they thought, I want my child to get into the U.S., and this is the only way to do. I'll pay the cartel, and they'll take care of them. They were not going to take care of them. They want to abuse them and use them until they released them into the U.S. And then Border Patrol agents trying to cap it down and get a control on these people and where these kids are, they lost control because the Biden administration was handcuffing them. And so children were coming across our border with or without other traffic humans and those trying to come in illegally with nothing more than a note pinned to their clothing saying, call this number, it's my uncle, send me to visit him. And they call the uncle, yeah, that's me. Send her up, send her up. And we don't know what happened to those children after. 300,000 children brought across our border. For what purpose? That we can't find. And when I say 300,000, that's only half, less than half of the children that we know were brought into the country. If you start thinking about what's happening to those kids, you'll get sick. If you're getting sick over thinking about it, imagine what they're going through. They'll be used, abused, and then thrown away like a piece of trash. And think of the smallest children. They don't know a world beyond what they have around them. They think this is commonplace. This is the way things are. There's no sense for the child to cry out saying, it hurts, don't do that to me. The predators are going to do it anyway. It is sickening. DHS Secretary Jay Johnson said, these sanctuary jurisdictions that are not cooperating with ICE, they need to have a talk with us. And I'm going to be talking to those mayors, and I'm going to say, you've got to work with us. Don't wait for there to be a tragic incident in your city before you decide you need to work with ICE. We've already had several tragic incidents anyway. He said, when I used to tell people at ICE when I was secretary, Tom Holman included, is when you're on the streets doing your job, use common sense, because one notorious incident can turbocharge a sanctuary city movement like we're seeing right now across this country. The ideal situation is where local law enforcement is working effectively with ICE to find these people. Find these people in pretrial detention, find these people at their sentences, and then about to be released, put detainers on them, deport them. Do that. But they're not. He says they're not cooperating. He said when we have immigration enforcement on the streets doing their job, looking for undocumented, they might end up, one, grabbing people that weren't really doing anything wrong, but they're undocumented. They get grabbed up. And then some kind of fight breaks out. Then some kind of person is hurt. And then sometimes here come the leftists saying, oh, my God, you can't ship them out of the country. And that's why we're building this Alligator Alley prison unit on an abandoned Air Force base in Florida. Okay, we'll keep them in country, but they'll be at this Alligator Alcatraz. You want to run off from us? You run into the swamp. Mosquitoes themselves will kill you, get enough of them. But there are also alligators and pythons. There'll be a lot of them say, I'll just stay in my bunk. Protect me from the alligators and pythons. Or they may think, I want to self-deport and get out right now. The problem with that is some of those who will self-deport are among those who brought children in and did unspeakable things to these children. I don't know when the time will come. It will. But I don't know when the time will come that we will fully learn the extent of what has happened. It's not enough that we've been invaded by illegals, thank you, Joe Biden, but what's happened to the children. 20 years from now, child coming across at 5 o'clock, coming at 5 years of age, then would be 25, assuming they survived what they went through. Would they be telling stories or maybe still being held? If I had to guess, they will not survive to reach that age. All right, earlier today, after Pete Hegseth berated the media properly, because you're always looking to show that our troops, our forces are inadequate, and you're basically attacking Trump, but you're attacking every man and woman in uniform and our country. Because you hate our country, you don't want us to be successful. Joint Chief of Staff General Dan King gave reporters the human side of our American troops. This is one of the bases that Iranian missiles got launched at, a barrage of them, because they had to show after we hit their nuclear facilities, hey, we're still here, we're still doing something. And Trump let it go. We didn't do anything other than let the Patriot batteries of those troops shoot them out of the sky. We did no additional attack against Iran. None of the missiles hit any target, even though they're trying to hit U.S. airmen on U.S. air bases. And the story of those troops is inspiring. That story when we continue.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
The Napoli heritage of fine dining continues with Napoli Kirkwood. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. So add that to Cafe Napoli in Clayton, Napoli 2 in Town and Country, Napoli 3 in St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C, and don't forget about Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in the district, Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, plus now, open Napoli, Kirkwood.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
The oldest soldier was a 28-year-old captain. The youngest was a 21-year-old private who'd been in the military for less than 2 years. So let's put ourselves out there for a second. Imagine you're that young first lieutenant, you're 25 or 26 years old, and you've been assigned as the tactical director inside the command and control element. You, at that age, are the sole person responsible to defend this base. Listening next to you is your early warning operator whose job is to notify you of imminent attack. There's 5 people inside a vehicle and 5 people outside of a vehicle around these, a total of, as I said, 44. By the way, you've sat in the Middle East for years, deployed over and over again, extended multiple times, always being prepared, but unsure of when that particular day will come that you must execute your mission and not fail.
And not fail. You heard him give the ages of the troops and how long they'd been in the military. Wasn't only a couple years, but he's stationed in a hot zone, the Middle East, and right under the missiles that could be fired on them. And you're told to be ready. They could be coming, and especially after we hit the Iran nuclear facilities. Once again, Joint Chiefs Chair Dan Kane.
As the day continues, you start to hear more and more chatter in the information space about an impending attack. And as the sun starts to set in the west, you get orders from your higher headquarters to make sure that your missile batteries are pointed to the north. There are just a few other teammates. It's hot, you're getting nervous, and you expect an attack. Outside of those Patriot vehicles, your hot crew, which is 1 NCO and 4 additional soldiers, turns a key and relinquishes control of those missiles to that young lieutenant inside the vehicle, and you wait. You know that you're going to have approximately 2 minutes, 120 seconds to either succeed or fail. And then at approximately 12:30 p.m. on Monday, that's 7:30 p.m. in Qatar, as the sun sets in the west, Iran attacks. As the targets were detected, round after round of Patriot missiles are ejected from their canisters by an initial launch charge. Then the main solid rocket motor ignites. You can feel this in your body if you've ever been around a Patriot taking a shot. And round after round goes out and guides against those missiles coming inbound. We believe that this is the largest single Patriot engagement in U.S. military history. And we were joined in this engagement by the Qatari Patriot crews. I'm not going to tell you how many rounds were shot, but it was a bunch because of classified purposes. And we're aware that there's reports of something getting through. What we do know is there was a lot of metal flying around.
A lot of metal. Not only the missiles coming in, but when they're intercepted, gravity takes over with the metal that's blown apart. It's going to come to ground somewhere. Now, of course, with the Iron Dome over Israel, Patriot missiles have been a prime protector for them. But you got to hit the target. You got to be prepared to do it and be ready to do it constantly. These troops at that base, as Iran was firing a barrage of missiles at them, it was their first engagement. But my God, what a job they did. Once again, Joint Chiefs Staff of Chair Dan Kane.
These awesome humans, along with their Qatari brothers and sisters in arms, stood between a salvo of Iranian missiles and the safety of Al Udeid. They are the unsung heroes of the 21st century United States Army. And I know a lot of you have seen the videos online and the excitement as those Patriots departed their launchers and went up and guided. This really demonstrates the combat capability and capacity of our Army air defenders. Simply stated, they absolutely crushed it.
They crushed it. You have seen, I'm sure, some World War II action, movies. And remember the Memphis Belle, a bomber crew? The captain was maybe 24 years old. Everybody on the plane was 20 or less. We're having a resurgence of Americans, real patriotic Americans, willing to step forward and say, I will serve. We're not going to have a draft again, but there are Americans that are going to be willing to come up and do that. Pete Hegseth had said today to the press, he said, how many stories have you written about how hard it is, what they're doing? All you guys are just determined to make our pilots, our crews, look inadequate. I'd say they should be praised highly over and over again. We'll spend more time on that next hour. Remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can hear podcast of this program at Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook.
John Bill Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Bill to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Bill has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 1-800-NEW-ROOF, John Bill. You and I might have something in common, back pain. I can tell you where I go for help, Esquire Sports Medicine, the spine of St. Louis. They can put athletes back on the field so they can clearly help us. Esquire Sports Medicine, hands-on chiropractic help on Big Bend, just north of Highway 40, 314-644-0885, EsquireSportsMedicine.com, EsquireSportsMedicine.com. Great patio season to enjoy any of the Cafe Napoli locations. How about the Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield? Enjoying coal-fired pizza, nothing else like it. Napoli Brothers Pizza and Pasta in Chesterfield. A few doors down, Lit Cigar Lounge, where you can enjoy premium cigars and whiskeys. Check the Lit Cigar Lounge Facebook for details, plus gift cards for friends. I'll see you at Lit Cigar Lounge in Chesterfield. It's that time of season when families, businesses are moving. For local or long distance, I endorse McGuire Moving. Get a date set soon before the schedules are booked. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. McGuire is constantly giving back to our veterans, such as support dogs for our brave. So with McGuire, you're getting excellent service and helping our vets. McGuireMoving.com. So many times, Vincent's Jewelers has helped me surprise someone special. Vincent's locally owned can do the same for you, and you don't have to break the bank to get something really nice, maybe even customized. The smile you're going to get back from that special someone, priceless. Check VincentsJewelers.com every day because new items are arriving and there are special deals. Vincent's, my only jeweler. VincentsJewelers.com. VincentsJewelers.com. I can tell you how to get a free quick quiz to see how artificial intelligence can boost your company's potential. You go to PRIGlobal.ai. PRIGlobal.ai. St. Louis Business Magazine listing PRI as one of the leading IT companies, and PRI has its own AI lab to develop what your business needs. PRIGlobal.ai. PRIGlobal.ai.
This is News Talk STL.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
I woke up this morning, got myself a gun.
I state without reservation that the United States federal government is the world's largest child sex trafficking organization in modern history. The probability that thousands of these UACs are being raped at this very moment is 100%. Chairman Higgins, Ranking Member Correa, Chairman Bishop, Ranking Member Ivey, and the members of the subcommittee, I appreciate the opportunity to speak about the evil of child trafficking caused by the open border policies under President Joe Biden and his administration. I served in the United States Border Patrol for 24 years until I retired as a Deputy Patrol Agent in charge in San Diego sector. I worked under 5 presidential administrations, and only one president secured the border, President Donald Trump. Border Patrol agents went from working and being supported by the greatest border president in American history to the worst, President Joe Biden.
Those are the words of a former deputy agent chief for the Border Patrol in the San Diego region in his testimony before Congress, saying that I say without any needed qualification, the Trump administration, or rather the Biden administration, with the help of the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas, is the biggest human trafficker in history. They opened our borders, but they also allowed drug cartels to collect money to bring illegals to our border, and among them, children. And he said, I'm convinced, even as I'm speaking, somewhere a child brought across our border is being raped or molested in some way. You can't get that out of your head once you start thinking about it. You got those on the left, they just don't want to think about it. Or maybe some of them participating. Yeah, I said it. I don't know. And yeah, there could be, quote, some conservatives participating. I don't care what their party label is, their color, their ancestry, their religion. If they're molesting children, either illegally brought into the country or here living as citizens, we need a tall tree and a short rope. Thanks for joining us. Hour number 2, Larry Connors USA, on every Monday through Friday for you right here from 6 to 8 p.m. And when we're on the air, we are streaming video. You can watch by going to NewsTalkSTL Rumble, Facebook, or Twitter. Larry Connors USA Rumble or Facebook. And everything later goes up as a podcast at NewsTalkSTL, LarryConnorsUSA.com, Larry Connors USA Facebook. Please pull up and listen or watch later if you can't complete each program. But more importantly, even if you heard each program, pull one up and send them. Share them with others. Get the word out. And reminding your friends wherever they are around the nation and the world, if they have the NewsTalk STL app, they can get it on their phone for free and they can listen to whatever we have on the air at that moment, and also use that to pull up the podcast. Certainly want them listening to all of our great programs we have here. And with Larry Connors USA, as with the others, you are going to get news, analysis, and opinion. And I promise you to also give you education. You walk away from each program with more knowledge than you had when you started. A little bit later, we're going to go to the briefing that took place today. Pete Hegseth and Joint Chiefs of Staff General King talking about the success of what we did with Iran. Despite the leftist media, legacy media, and those who want to see us fail, we had success. That's coming up later in this hour. Also, Leslie Consulting. That is one of my sponsors. I always put that up front for you. But Robert Leslie is going to be joining us because I wanted to get a better handle and help you also understand what are annuities. Are they good for your portfolio or not? And what are the things you need to watch out for? So Bob Leslie will be joining us later in this hour. But back to the issue with J.J. Correll former border chief agent, deputy agent in the San Diego sector, and his testimony in front of Congress.
My last year in the Border Patrol was Joe Biden's first year in office. On his first day in office, I watched in disbelief as 94 executive orders cascaded down from Washington, D.C., obliterating every immigration policy that had been provided the most secure border in America's history. Border Patrol agents were forced to carry out unconstitutional orders that violated every law in the Immigration Nationality Act. President Biden, through Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, created policy out of thin air, ignored federal immigration law, and facilitated the largest mass invasion into America that the world has ever seen. The United States of America will have spent hundreds of billions of dollars in 4 years to fund the needs of over 50 million illegal aliens that populate our nation. Between 1 in 6 and 1 in 7 residents in America is an illegal alien. America has suffered the greatest demographic shift in modern history.
And that was the intent, to invade America, to change the face of America. These folks were not coming to, first of all, not coming legally. And secondly, they were not, many of them were not coming to assimilate, to become part of our culture and our fabric. Our fabric is made up of immigrants from around the world that came here legally. And in the meantime, there are immigrants who have applied to come here legally, but we've been so tied up in dealing with illegals, we don't have time to help the legal applicants get in. And every year we import, or rather we allow 1.1 million or more legal migrants to come in. And we could allow more if we were suddenly hit with, 15, 20 million illegals Biden let in? Thank you, Joe Biden. And those coming in, for the most part, they're drug cartel members, or they're bringing in smuggling guns, weapons of other type, drugs, children. Once again, J.J. Corral.
After serving in the United States Border Patrol for 24 years, spending a year researching and writing a best-selling book entitled Invaded, The Intentional Destruction of the American Immigration System, and filming 2 documentaries, I state with complete certainty that Biden, Harris, and Mayorkas intentionally, strategically, and purposely weaponized illegal immigration and used it as a tool to fundamentally transform America. Inside this invasion, the unspoken evil of child trafficking, and more specifically child sex trafficking, has flourished. At the end of this current administration, the number of children trafficked will have grown to over 550,000 unaccompanied alien children known as UACs. This horrific number of children will have been arrested, released into America, and then lost. To put this into context, during President Trump's last year in office, Customs and Border Protection arrested 30,557 UACs who were accounted for and not lost. Conversely, in the first year of Biden's presidency, CBP arrested 147,975 UACs, most of which are unaccompanied for and lost.
How do you do that? You do it because, one, you just don't care. You're not going to bother. And then if you're even trying to do it right, you can't stay up with it. You cannot stay on top of it. That's if they're coming across at ports of entry, not counting those who sneak across otherwise. And we do not know how many in this nation are sleeper cells for Iran, China, or some other terrorist group, nation. We don't know, because we don't know who they are. We do know that if we stop them at the border, we put them on a bus or plane and send them wherever they want. You're free to roam about the country. Until we have a hearing to discuss if you really should get asylum, you will come back, won't you? Here's your asylum date. Oh, well, we're so backlogged, it's going to be 4 years. But we expect you to come back. You're a fat chance that's going to happen. J.J. Corral, again, retired U.S. Border Patrol deputy agent in the San Diego area, said, Joe Biden is the one to be held responsible every time.
In 2023, Congressional Hearings, Health and Human Services, Javier Becerra, and Director of Office of Refugee Resettlement, Robin Marcos, forced to admit that their agency had no contact with over 85,000 UACs. They were lost. What did DHS, HHS, and ORR do to correct this humanitarian disaster? Nothing. In fact, all 3 agencies created further policies and procedures to increase the efficiency of moving UACs from the border to the interior of the United States to unknown and unvetted sponsors. Unaccompanied alien children were being handed off to total strangers. Then they disappeared into the darkness of labor and sex trafficking. In fact, a year later, in August of 2024, the Inspector General, with oversight over DHS, issued a report stating the number lost UACs was not 85,000, it was over 320,000. My business partner, Ryan Matt, and I spent 6 months traveling across America, filming a documentary titled, What is Treason Trafficked? The evil of child sex trafficking is difficult to digest and understand. However, after conducting numerous interviews with officers, agents, and whistleblowers from every alphabet agency and department, it was made clear to us that the federal government knowingly and actively facilitated these criminal acts.
And you know what? If you're going to prosecute anyone for these acts, someone in a prosecutor level, much less other law enforcement level, has to sit, if you've got video of some of this, because a lot of them like to film themselves doing these horrific things. Got to sit there and watch it happen so you could document it for trial. How'd you like that job? It's got to be done. You know, the fascination with Joe Biden, especially after the first Trump term, we cannot have Trump continue. And Biden would do everything right. He did not. One thing Trump did do, though, that's very interesting, is a side note, a touch of levity for you briefly. Actress and comedian Rosie O'Donnell said, Trump's first term took such a toll on me. I was very, very depressed. I was overeating. I was over-drinking. It hurt my heart that America believed the lies. And then it broke my heart to be in a business that creates and sells lies for profit. He's just talking about Trump's first term was just terrible. Hurt my heart. How many children were hurt while Biden was in office the first term? Today, Joint Chiefs of Staff General Kane, released extensive details of how successful our attack on Iran nuke sites were, despite the leftist media lies.
I'd like to take a step back and just acknowledge the history that has been made in the course of the last week thanks to President Trump's strength. 5 days ago, the rogue Iranian regime possessed the capability to create a nuclear weapon that threatened the United States, the state of Israel, and the entire world. And presidents for decades have said, dating back to Bill Clinton, that Iran cannot possess a nuclear weapon. And because of the decisive leadership of President Trump and the skill and the excellence of our United States military, that imminent threat to the United States and the world has been demolished because of the successful operation on Saturday night. And not only that, but within the span of 48 hours, President Trump was able to turn around and negotiate a successful ceasefire between Israel and Iran, ending this war after just 12 days. No other president in history could have ever dreamed of such a success, and that's exactly why the fake news media is now trying to demean and undermine the president. And we've seen this playbook be run before. You have hostile actors within the intelligence community who illegally leak bits and pieces of an intelligence assessment to push a fake news narrative. And that's what the CNN story was yesterday. And it's not a coincidence that it was written by the exact same CNN reporter who wrote the original story, falsely alleging that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. Yeah. The American public are smarter than this, and they should know the truth. President Trump completely and totally obliterated the capability of Iran to produce a nuclear weapon, and the world is safer today because of his historic efforts.
Carolyn Leavitt, White House spokeswoman. And you're going to get details before we wrap up this hour from Joint Chiefs of Staff Chair Dan King on exactly how we went about it. And Pete Hegseth also berating the media in addition to what you were hearing from Leavitt at that point. She mentioned the leaks. The FBI is investigating. The senior White House official said, we are declaring a war on leakers. They are, at this point, planning to limit posting on CapNet. That's a system the administration uses to share classified information with Congress. The assessment of the Iran bombings was put on CapNet late Monday, And the next afternoon, then you had CNN and the New York Times report snippets of the assessment. They were early assessments. But the earlier media reports indicated the Iran program had not been set back, but maybe by a matter of months instead of being obliterated. One administration official said, go figure, as soon as we put information on CapNet, it leaks. Yeah, it does. And coming up later, we're going to talk about that in more detail, hear from more on that on Joint Chiefs of Staff Kane and also Secretary of Defense Hegseth about these. But the stories that we're trying to put out, Carolyn Levitt says, you lied.
This was a low-confidence preliminary intelligence assessment. The assessment itself said that it was not corroborated by anyone else in the intelligence community, and it has been disputed by not just the United States, the President, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State, our Joint Chiefs, and our General Kane, who was incredibly successful in this mission on Saturday night. It was also disputed by both Israel and Iran. And CNN didn't care about that. The DIA themselves have now come out and said, this was a preliminary report, and this CNN story got it completely wrong. But that reporter is a sheep, and she's a mouthpiece for people who don't like Donald Trump, and she only gave the White House an hour to respond. And that's, again, the same playbook we've seen the fake news media play time and time again. But this story has now been debunked widely by not just the United States, but also Iran and Israel as well.
Yeah. And one member of the intelligence community. And remember, when they refer to the intelligence community, remember how many former intelligence community leaders and authorities signed off saying the Hunter Biden laptop didn't exist and that Trump was involved in Russian collusion? You remember that? Yeah, they lied then, didn't they? One of the current ones under the Trump administration says Trump knows the intelligence community has spooks who hate his guts. That's true. Details of the Fordo bombing coming up. But next, do you understand annuities? My guest, Bob Leslie of Leslie Consulting, will walk us through it. Lock and load. Ready on the right.
You are listening to Larry Connors, USA.
I want to tell you more about Wellington Environmental's dustless blasting services. Wellington can blast paint, grease, graffiti, even stripes off parking lots. Truly amazing and powerful. But can Wellington blast something more sensitive? Yes, Wellington can use dry ice to blast soot and odors off smoke-damaged surfaces right after a fire. Currently, Wellington uses dry ice to clean mold off wood inside a home. Why? Well, dry ice immediately disappears, turns into a vapor. That means no mess to clean up, no damaged surfaces. You need to check with Wellington, always researching and practicing with new, better, faster, safer equipment and products for you. And it's very easy to schedule an estimator for your next project. Call Cindy, 314-644-4930, 644-4930. Be well with Wellington. McGuire Moving is silver certified, which means they are great at relocating senior citizens. In fact, McGuire is a household name because McGuire understands the stress involved when moving older adults. So if you or family members need help moving, I highly recommend McGuire Moving. 314-241-0600. 241-0600. Get a free in-home estimate. McGuireMoving.com. Back pain? Follow me to Esquire Sports Medicine, where they've got your back. Esquire is the oldest sports medicine clinic in St. Louis. Dr. Draghi and his team of chiropractors can get you back to work, back to life without the pain. New patients usually scheduled within 24 hours. 314-644-0885. 644-0885. EsquireSportsMedicine.com. I've got a great evening planned for you. We start with dining at the Oak Street Inn Lounge in Cottleville. We enjoy sunset on the rooftop, then down to the speakeasy. Just one visit, you're going to see why I'm always talking about the Oak Street Inn and Lounge. Plus, you might want to plan a staycation, a romantic getaway. Check out oakstreetinandlounge.com for various events this summer. Oak Street Inn and Lounge, Cottleville. Oak Street Inn and Lounge, Cottleville.
This is News Talk STL.
Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red light. Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red light. Roxanne.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Welcome back. My guest coming up. I always let you know when I have a sponsor on board as a guest because I'm not trying to push anything past you. I'm very transparent. Leslie Consulting is a sponsor of this program, but I also have guests on who are experts in their field. And Robert Leslie has been for decades dealing in financial issues. Bob Leslie joining us now. Bob, welcome aboard, sir.
Hello to my favorite radio commentator.
You just go
Larry
on and on.
Connors.
I just keep that in mind next time we sit down and play poker. Give me some respect there, will you?
I give you nothing but respect. High praise, Larry.
Great, Bob. Good to have you. Listen, I wanted to get in today a little bit about, first of all, a lot of folks get concerned as to what is an annuity. Is it good for a portfolio? And can you do some way to get withdrawals without payments, prepayment, things of this nature?
Well, we have a very exciting program that we've been implementing for some time, and it involves utilizing something called a Roth IRA. So a Roth IRA is what everyone really wants to be in today because you're contributing to an IRA that is tax-free accumulation, tax-free withdrawals, and tax-free death benefit. And we have a method where if you have 401k accumulation or IRA or SEP accumulations, those are all 100% taxable. Well, we have a method to transfer those over to a Roth IRA where the insurance company is actually going to pay a majority of the taxes that would be due.
I love that.
Of that. So in your question you just asked me, is annuity good? This is the same annuity, Larry, that we talked about last time that has a zero floor. You can never lose. You're going to get a 21% tax-free bonus to go into your Roth IRA day one. And as you're growing, it's a new step up in basis for the zero floor. And you have liquidity. You can take out 10% per year every year. If you don't take it out the first year, you can take out 20%. So, I mean, this is really
what kind of fee do you pay to take it out?
You pay no fee at all. It's 10% per year with no fee. 20% if you don't take it out in the first year with no fee. After 10 years, you can take out 100% with no fee. Totally liquid.
Let me ask this. I mean, when you use a phrase, a zero floor, you never lose, that sounds like somebody saying, you're never going to lose your investment with this program. Is that exactly what you're saying?
That is exactly what I'm saying. And the investments in the portfolio are the S&P 500, NASDAQ 100, Fidelity, issues like that. And a zero floor means you can never, ever lose on your investments, ever.
And how is that done?
Well, it's done. Basically, what happens is the insurance company absorbs the years where you have losses, and they put participation and caps on the amounts of money that you can get. So let me give you an example. Let's say that the S&P 500 has a 30% participation. What that means is if the S&P returns 30%, you're going to get 30% of that, or 9%. So they cap you. They're going to give you a lower return, but they have to do that in order to be able to pay those losses that they incur.
Now, is this something?
The beauty of this is,
I'm sorry.
You're going to get between a 4 and 8% return almost every year, and it's going to be tax-free, tax death benefit tax-free accumulations, everything using this Roth investment. And you can go in those same S&P 500, NASDAQ 100, Fidelity that you would do on a straight market.
I know you do this with a lot of major corporations with numerous employees. Do you have to be in a big business to get it done, or can you do it as an individual?
No. This is an individual product, Larry, for each person. So a person's got a 401k where, let's say they got $1 million in there, we can transfer this over, and a majority of the taxes that would be due from the Roth IRA is going to be paid by the insurance company.
So if they have some kind of benefit plan through their company, are companies actually using Roth IRAs as well, or is that individual only?
Well, here's the thing. Roth IRAs are limited to only $7,000 a year per contribution.
Right.
Except when you're transferring from another IRA. So you can have an unlimited amount of money in your, like I'm talking with a guy right now that has $8 million in his 401k that he's accumulated in his whole career. He can transfer that whole amount
without a penalty.
And it all goes into the Roth IRA. It avoids the $7,000 maximum level.
Well, annuities, I hear when the word comes up, a lot of people, I'm one of them, my mind just starts blanking. Annuities, I just don't understand.
Well, annuities, there's several kinds of annuities, and most of the people only know the one kind of annuity is where you give the insurance company money, and then they say, okay, we're going to start paying you a guaranteed income for life, whether you live to be 120, 150, or you die in 2 years. You get the same amount they're going to pay you until you die. That is what most people think. They think, wow, my money's going to be tied up. I can't get to it. I got to live for 50 years to get paid out. Well, then you have accumulation annuities, which is what we utilize. And these are just like a savings account. You're putting money into an indexed annuity that has total liquidity, has total access, that you can access anytime you want. And it has a surrender fee in it. It's like 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 over a 10-year period. At the end of 10 years, you can take 100% of your money out. And in the case of a Roth IRA rollover, you get 100% out tax-free.
One final question on this point. What about beneficiaries if you die?
Beneficiary would then, if you die and you have a 401k or an IRA, that beneficiary is going to have to pay full taxable income. So let's say if you have $1 million and you die, if your tax rate's 35%, what's going to be 37% plus 5 state, that's 42%. That means $420,000 would have to be tax. If you have a Roth IRA, you get that $1 million tax-free.
All right. Well, Bob, I appreciate it. Again, you're listening to Bob Leslie. He's the founder and owner of Leslie Consulting, been in the business for decades. But there was a time he was not in finance to that high degree. He was playing baseball for the Dodgers. And, in fact, that first game you pitched for the Dodgers, something very interesting about that.
Yeah, that was probably one of my most exciting days of my life, Larry. I mean, this was the 1975. I had made the Dodger roster for the first time. And this is in spring training. We're having our very first game, which was on my birthday. And I thought this is like a birthday present. Yeah. And I made which meant I was in the bullpen for that day. And the Dodgers were playing the Tokyo Giants, and we ended up losing that game 5-3. But at that time, Walter Alston was the manager. Tommy Lasorda was the third base coach. And all of a sudden, it's 8 innings have gone by, and then Walter Alston waves down. He goes, "Get Leslie up." So I'm up warming up, and I thought, yes, he's just going to warm me up, and the game's going to be over.
Right.
And then he goes, "Leslie, you're in." And I go, "Oh my God, I'm going in." So I'm pitching the 9th inning. And I walk out there, and there's a guy that I'm going to face. His name is Sadahara O. So to give you an idea who that was, if you know who Shohei Ohtani is today,
yeah,
Sadahara O is the equivalent of Shohei Ohtani, except Sadahara O is the world's leading home run hitter. He's hit 868 home runs of all baseball. He's the first hitter that I get to face.
Happy birthday, Bob.
Happy birthday. We got a packed stadium. Holman Stadium held about 8,000 people. and I'm out on the hill, and I throw the first pitch. He swings and misses.
Oh,
The second
got one
pitch,
by. I got one by. Now here comes the second one. What did you throw for the first pitch, by the way?
First pitch was fastball, low and inside, and he swung and missed. And he was a guy, I don't know if you remember, you ever seen this? He would raise his leg up almost like karate as he was getting ready to hit. His leg would be like 3 feet off the ground.
Right. So second pitch.
Second pitch, he fouls it back. So now I got him 2 strikes, no balls.
Okay.
Third pitch, I throw him a breaking ball, went in the dirt. He didn't go for it. Fourth pitch, I threw a fastball high and away and struck him out. So that was my first game I ever faced. I struck out Sadahar O, the world's home run leader ever.
Have you ever capped that 24th birthday?
I think that one would be tough to beat, Larry, unless I got to spend, a free dinner with you or something.
Oh, well, Bonnie, you talked me into that. I walked myself right in there and let the door close behind me. Bob will have to.
Yes, you did.
We'll make
And I
plans to
took
do that.
advantage of it.
We'll make plans to do that. Well, always enjoy my time with you anyway as a friend. Again, folks, Robert Leslie Consulting, one of my clients and sponsors, but obviously an expert on financial issues and an expert on striking out Sadahuro O. Well done, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you very much. That's a fascinating story. And hopefully you learned something in the process about that may benefit your financials from Robert Leslie Consulting. Well, coming up, we're going to get back into the Iran issue and how it's been misplayed by the leftists. They don't really care. They want to sell you lies. We're going to start taking it all apart. You don't want to go anywhere. Stay with us, please.
You can connect with Larry on Twitter at Larry Connors USA.
Question: are you looking to unlock the full potential of artificial intelligence for your business? I want you to meet my friends at PRI Global, named by the St. Louis Business Journal as a leading IT consulting firm. 25 years helping local and worldwide companies. PRI Global has a free survey to determine where your company stands in your AI journey. You simply go to priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. And I also have a phone number, so get ready to copy that number. And I'll remind you that PRI Global has its own AI lab, creating, adapting, developing, pushing the boundaries for what AI can do for you. Here's the number, 636-689-0545. 636-689-0545. Or visit priglobal.ai, priglobal.ai. Here's great news. Napoli Kirkwood is now open. So that means fine dining right in the heart of Kirkwood. So you have the original Cafe Napoli in downtown Clayton, Napoli 2, Town and Country, Napoli 3 on the streets of St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C, plus Napoli Brothers Pasta and Pizza in the Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, and now adding Napoli Kirkwood. What a great place to dine. Napoli Kirkwood, now open. Since 1995, Renewal by Anderson has helped St. Louis homeowners upgrade with windows and doors. Now it's our 30th anniversary sale. You'll get $1,995 off every project. No gimmicks, real savings, and the nation's best warranty. The offer ends June 30th, so you don't want to wait. There are some restrictions. Visit rbastl.com. Renewal by Anderson. Superior products, exceptional service. You've worked hard for your money, so protect it. Meet my friend Bob Leslie and ask about the Gain and Retain Plan. Leslie Consulting, 40 years in the St. Louis area as a leader in brokerage and risk management. Call 314-721-0066, 721-0066. Oh, and ask Bob how he was the L.A. Dodger #1 pick. LeslieConsulting.com.
This is News Talk STL.
There's no place to hide down here. No place to hide down here. Went to the rock, got on my knees. I heard the angels weep for me. No place to hide down here.
This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.
Because you, and I mean specifically you, the press, specifically you, the press corps, because you cheer against Trump so hard, it's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump, because you want him not to be successful so bad, you have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it. Spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful.
I'm really glad Pete Hegseth did that today, our Secretary of Defense, in a Department of Defense briefing about what happened on our attacks. One of the first things he did is go right for the jugular of the leftist media. Because of you. You wanted us to fail. Just like I told you the other day, and I had on a commentary as well, that there are so-called Americans. They are born in America, but they're not Americans. They're not patriots. They want our nation to fail because Trump is the leader. Let me make it clear to you. If Biden had carried out such an attack, I would praise him for it, or whoever advised him to do it. And I wouldn't be looking for ways to, well, they didn't completely obliterate it, because that was one of the words Trump had used at one point. And that was based off of preliminary intel, but they thought they had done a good job. You're going to hear more in a moment from our Joint Chiefs of Staff Chair, General Dan Kane, on exactly what took place and how. But I would praise the mission. I praised it when Obama was in, and we went after drawing a blank. Who the hell did we kill that we wanted to get for so long? But I remember that specifically, and them taking him out. I'm glad. But the leftist media, as Pete said, you hate Trump so much. It is in your DNA and your blood to cheer against Trump. And you're hoping maybe they were not effective. And then you took them to task on something else. You're speaking and you really have no knowledge. You just see a little clip of something and you think, oh, now I'm an expert. Defense Secretary Hegseth.
How many stories have been written about how hard it is to, fly a plane for 36 hours? Has MSNBC done that story? Has Fox? Have we done the story how hard that is? Have we done it 2 or 3 times so that American people understand? How about how difficult it is to shoot a drone from an F-15 or 16 or F-22 or F-35? Or what it's like to man a Patriot battery? Or how hard it is to refuel midair? Giving the American people an understanding of how complex and sophisticated this mission really was. There are so many aspects of what our brave men and women did that because of the hatred of this press corps are undermined because your people are trying to leak and spin that it wasn't successful. It's irresponsible.
It is. And the fact that you're leaking, that's treasonous. I don't care if it's leaked after it came out. If it wasn't supposed to be made public, it was a national security issue. Well, what it was that they were leaking was a preliminary report, and they were saying, well, we understand it wasn't that successful. The FBI is now investigating the leak as well as the preliminary Defense Intelligence Agency's damage assessment. The leaking of that preliminary assessment outraged Trump and U.S. officials, saying, one, it's incomplete. It's an early look at what happened. But it was released early so it could undercut Trump's claims when he said said the nuclear sites had been obliterated. So the White House had one official state, we're declaring a war on leakers. The FBI is investigating the leak. The intelligence community trying to figure out how to tighten up their processes so we don't have deep state actors leaking parts of intel analysis that have low confidence in the media. They're posting and looking at CapNet. That's a system the administration uses to share classified information with Congress. And boy, I got to tell you, you send anything to Congress, there are going to be members of Congress that can't wait to rush out and say, hey, I know something. And it didn't work. It was not like he said. Well, they don't know a damn thing other than what little tidbit they got. The DIA assessment in the beginning, the Defense Intelligence Agency's assessment, was put on CapNet late Monday after the weekend attack. The afternoon afterwards, CNN, New York Times reporting snippets of the assessment. John LeBoutier hit my phone with a, hey, look at this that day. I said, well, look at the source. It's intel agents who have lied in the past about a Hunter Biden laptop and Russian collusion. But I will say, if you missed the interview we had with John LeBoutier today about what Trump did, what he accomplished, you need to listen to the first hour, because what he said, 100% patriotism, regardless that Trump is president. But those early media reports that came out were saying, no, the program for Iran, nuclear program, it was not obliterated, just set back a matter of months. The White House decided we're going to quit sharing classified intel until we're ready for everything to be out. An Axios report said it was put together in 24 hours after the bombings based on a review of sat photos, not on the ground witnesses, one early snapshot from only one of 18 agencies in the intel community. The report self-acknowledged, quote, the low confidence of the assessment, which means we might need to bomb again, but we got to look closer at what we did do. As one senior advisor said, Trump knows the intelligence community has spooks who hate his guts. Now, difference between that and what we actually did accomplish. Joint Chiefs of Staff Dan King was talking about how long we have been working just to get to that point, talking about the intel efforts and focus going into what took place.
For more than 15 years, this officer and his teammate lived and breathed this single target, Fordo, a critical element of Iran's covert nuclear weapons program. He studied the geology. He watched the Iranians dig it out. He watched the construction, the weather, the discard material, the geology, the construction materials, where the materials came from. He looked at the vent shaft, the exhaust shaft, the electrical systems, the environmental control systems, every nook, every crater, every piece of equipment going in and every piece of equipment going out. They literally dreamed about this target at night when they slept. They thought about it driving back and forth to work, and they knew from the very first days what this was for. You do not build a multi-layered underground bunker complex with centrifuges and other equipment in a mountain for any peaceful purpose.
15 years. Two members of our intel community were focused only on that. They obviously couldn't share anything with their family or anyone else except higher superiors. They kept it under lock and key, which is good at that point. But then they also realized if this is exactly what we think it is, we need another weapon.
And along the way, they realized we did not have a weapon that could adequately strike and kill this target. So they began a journey to work with industry and other tacticians to develop the GBU-57. They tested it over and over again, tried different options, tried more after that. They accomplished hundreds of test shots and dropped many full-scale weapons against extremely realistic targets for a single purpose: kill this target at the time and place of our nation's choosing. And then, on a day in June of 2025, more than 15 years after they started their life's work, the phone rang and the President of the United States ordered the B-2 force that you've supported to go strike and kill this target.
That was what they were waiting for. But Iran had begun to realize, we do have these air shafts and we have entrances in and out. We need to cover them. So they built a big concrete barrier over the shafts. That'll stop anybody from coming in. Nope. By now, we're ready for that.
The cap was forcibly removed by the first weapon, and the main shaft was uncovered. Weapons 2, 3, 4, 5 were tasked to enter the main shaft, move down into the complex at greater than 1,000 feet per second, and explode in the mission space. Weapon number 6 was designed on each side, so there were 6 on each side. Weapons number 6 was designed as a flex weapon to allow us to cover if one of the preceding jets or one of the preceding weapons did not work.
The so-called Supreme Leader, Khomeini, emerged from exile earlier today. He'd been hiding in a bunker somewhere. We probably knew where he was. Trump had said at one point. He delivered and came out and said, "This is a hand slap to America's face. We have victory over Israel." Right. So the U.S. had no gains in this war, even after 14 30,000-pound bunker-busting bombs destroyed that nuclear facility. And he claims the Islamic Republic was victorious. Trump says you start building it again, we're going to come after you again. That's a military mindset. That is the mindset needed to destroy the enemy. Not wound him, destroy him. And right now the Ayatollah has to know that if you really begin to step things up, we might make you a target. We haven't so far directly because you're the leader of state and you're a religious leader. We don't want to make you a martyr. But it gets to the point we have to, so be it. And supposedly Iran and U.S. will be having some meetings. Trump says, I don't care if we come to a deal or not. You're just not going to have a nuclear facility, period. And Joint Chiefs of Staff Dan King gave some very personal information about troops on a base that immediately after the attacks were over, Iran the next day thought, well, we got to do something. So they fired a barrage of missiles at this particular base trying to kill U.S. troops.
The oldest soldier was a 28-year-old captain. The youngest was a 21-year-old private who'd been in the military for less than 2 years. So let's put ourselves out there for a second. Imagine you're that young first lieutenant, you're 25 or 26 years old, and you've been assigned as the tactical director inside the command and control element. You, at that age, are the sole person responsible to defend this base. Listening next to you is your early warning operator whose job is to notify you of imminent attack. There's 5 people inside a vehicle and 5 people outside of a vehicle around these, a total of, as I said, 44. By the way, you've sat in the Middle East for years, deployed over and over again, extended multiple times, always being prepared, but unsure of when that particular day will come that you must execute your mission and not fail.
And they did not. And General Kane continues.
As the day continues, you start to hear more and more chatter in the information space about a pending attack. And as the sun starts to set in the west, you get orders from your higher headquarters to make sure that your missile batteries are pointed to the north. There are just a few other teammates. It's hot, you're getting nervous, and you expect an attack. Outside of those Patriot vehicles, your hot crew, which is 1 NCO and 4 additional soldiers, turns a key and relinquishes control of those missiles to that young lieutenant inside the vehicle, and you wait. You know that you're going to have approximately 2 minutes, 120 seconds to either succeed or fail. And then at approximately 12:30 p.m. on Monday, that's 7:30 p.m. in Qatar, as the sun sets in the west, Iran attacks. As the targets were detected, round after round of Patriot missiles are ejected from their canisters by an initial launch charge. Then the main solid rocket motor ignites. You can feel this in your body if you've ever been around a Patriot taking a shot. And round after round goes out and guides against those missiles coming inbound. We believe that this is the largest single Patriot engagement in U.S. military history. And we were joined in this engagement by the Qatari Patriot crews.
Praise America. God bless America and those troops. We need more patriotism in our nation. You know a soldier, we have Vicks for Vets program. Send a note to NewsTalkSTL. Look at our website and you'll see how you can send a note of praise that we will read on the air. I encourage you to do that. Vicks for Vets program. Look it up on NewsTalkSTL. Remember our pledge, one nation under God.
You can follow Larry on Larry Connors USA Facebook. Larry Connors USA Facebook. This is Larry Connors USA. Larry Connors USA.